Ciao amici! Hi friends! It's Natalia and welcome to my channel. Today we will talk with you about what my trip to New York taught me and which country is better for life, United States or Italy. On this channel I mostly tell about my life in Italy and my small business journey. You can follow my apparel brand on Instagram, and I also share some lessons that I learned along the way. The vacation is finally over and I really missed you and this channel. I had an entire month of vacation in August. Half I've spent in Calabria in Italy and half I've spent in New York. It was also my first time in the United States. I've dreamed for a long time to go to New York and it finally happened, and I was sure that I will have some new interesting lessons from this trip. In general, I think that traveling is really important for every person because it's always a mind-opening experience. It is not only showing you some new cultures, but it also gives you some new emotions, and it also makes you think about your own life and what you have to appreciate. I know that maybe it's not right to compare cultures when you go for the trip, because every culture is unique and there is no right or wrong, because everyone does it their own way. I was born and raised in Russia, St. Petersburg, until I was 28 years old. Then I moved to Italy to study, and I decided to stay here to live in Milan. So it's already 7 years that I'm living in Milan, and I already feel like at home in Italy. So of course, first of all, when I went to US, to New York, I was comparing the lifestyle in Italy with the lifestyle in New York. I've never been to other cities or states in US, and that's why I can compare only with the life in New York. Many of my friends asked me which impression I had, what I liked and disliked about New York, how I was feeling there, and I thought that it would be really interesting to share some of my emotions, some of my observations in New York, and some of the lessons that I learned from this trip. I want to tell right from the beginning that I'm not here to criticize anyone's culture. I just want to share my observations and maybe give you some ideas that you should think about, because they are really important for our daily life and for our happiness in general. When I arrived to New York, we had our first hotel near Times Square, and the first thing that I noticed when I was going to my hotel is that I saw many people that looked mentally ill. I mean, besides homeless people, I knew that there is this problem in United States in general and also in New York. I also saw these mental health problems just in the faces of the people that were walking by the street. I mean, I could read it in the faces. And that was really shocking for me because, to be honest, in Milan, of course, everywhere in the world and also in Milan, in general in big cities, and especially after pandemic, there are many mental health problems, but I don't see so many people here just on the streets that when you look at their face, you see and you can understand that they have some mental problem, or maybe they are taking some medication for mental problems, mental health problems. So for me it was really shocking to see so many people with this lost face expression just on the streets of New York. And also when I looked how many homeless people there were, and not only homeless people, but you could see that they are not mentally health people, I was wondering how comes that there are not so many problems with jobs in United States now. I mean, unemployment rate is not so high. In fact, I think it's possible to find job in New York, especially as it's a big city. But then I realized that it's not the job that was a problem. I've spent 9 days in New York with my husband, And when I was just exploring the city, walking on the streets, and looking at the people, at the way of living, and so on, I just realized that the biggest problem is mental health, because the conditions of life are very unnatural, at least in New York. I mean, you have these huge skyscrapers that's like, I don't know, putting pressure on your head. It was my experience, maybe after these small European houses. You don't have much of green. I mean, you have, for example, Central Park, but it's just a park apart. But when you're walking on the streets, you don't see much of trees and so on. The food also seemed to me of quite low quality, low nutritional quality, and it was also very expensive. And seeing all this, I realized that maybe the biggest problem for the mental health are the unnatural conditions that people live in. And if you don't have your mental health, you don't have anything. I mean, it's the first thing that you should care about, because it doesn't matter if there are jobs available, it doesn't matter anything. If you don't have mental health, you just become dysfunctional in the society. So, of course, you can end up even on the streets. Also in Italy, of course, there are some homeless people, but they're much less. And also I noticed that you see that they're homeless, but usually they're not madmen. I mean, it's just normal people that for some reasons chose to have this lifestyle, or they had some conditions that brought them to this lifestyle. But in general, they don't look like madmen. In general, I've seen many times the articles about the fact that in United States the rates of mental illnesses and also the amount of antidepressants that are sold are like all history records now. And for me it was really shocking to see it with my eyes. I knew the statistics, but I didn't expect to see the evidence of it immediately. Another thing that I noticed, that I'm sure many are aware about, is that New York is crazy expensive. I mean, I live in Milan. Milan is considered one of the most expensive cities for life in Europe, not only for the price of living, I mean for the rents and so on, but also for the price of the food in the restaurants and other things. But compared to New York, Milan is really cheap. Just to compare with the most simple things, for example, in New York you pay $5 or $6 for cappuccino, that is also not of the great quality, and in Milan you pay around from around 1.50 to €2 for cappuccino. I mean, it's like 3 times less expensive here, just for such daily things as, I don't know, taking coffee in the bar. And the prices for everything are like this. I mean, for example, when we were going for a lunch or for a dinner, we always tried to go to nice places, of course, because it was our vacation. We didn't have the plan to save money and so on, but we also didn't expect to pay so much for such simple things, because like in a normal bar in New York for 2 people, for just a couple of meals, water, I don't know, maybe one dessert or something like this, we were paying like from 100 to up to $200, including tips. I mean, because as I noticed in New York, and I heard that in general in US, tips are included in the bill, so it's obligatory in the end. And for me it's really strange, because for example in Russia you also give the tips, but they are not obligatory. You can choose to give them, and usually it's considered like a good manners thing to leave 10 to 15% of the bill as the tips, but you're not forced to do it. I mean, you can leave them if you liked the service, if you enjoyed the experience, and so on. And I think it's quite right, because if, for example, you didn't like the experience or the service, why you need to leave up to 20 and more percent of the bill? That is a huge amount, especially if you go to some expensive place. For me, it's quite strange. The only thing that I hope that this money really go to the employees, I mean to the waitresses, because for me it's quite absurd the amount. If people then earn this money and it's not the business that takes them, then it's fine, because at least they have a decent salary in the end of the month. But if this amount is shared in some way with the business owner, for me it's just crazy. And everything is like this in New York. Like, as I told as an example, that I can buy the breakfast, I don't know, in New York paying like $15. For the same amount, I can buy the breakfast for 4 people in Milan. And Milan is quite an expensive city. And I know that also the rent is super high in New York. And the most surprising thing for me was that I started to read some articles, and I discovered that the salaries in New York, I mean the normal salaries, I'm not talking about, I don't know, doctors, lawyers and so on. I'm talking about like normal people's salaries, maybe someone who is working in the office and so on. And I discovered that they are not so high. So I really don't know how people survive there, how they make their ends meet, because I don't know which kind of quality of life you can afford with all these prices. I must say that in Italy, the ratio between the salaries and the cost of life is not very balanced now, especially after the pandemic. But in the end, in Italy, you can survive and have quite a decent level of life, the level of the quality of life, for less. And another thing in Italy that I noticed, that even if you have some financial problems, you always have a family that helps you. I mean, Italians are very bonded with their families, and it's hard to see a person that has really difficulties with money, because in some way the family helps quite in every situation. By the way, in Italy we also have something like obligatory tips. It's called coperto. So if you go to Italy and you see in your bill coperto, usually it's considered like what they put on the table, like maybe the water and the bread, but in the end it's something like tips that can be obligatory, but not in all places. But anyway, this coperto is usually around 2 or 3 euros and not like 20% of your bill as it is in New York. Another thing that I noticed, that Americans like everything big. I mean, in New York, everything was huge. Okay, the houses, you have skyscrapers, but it's fine, it's like a business city. But also the cars are huge. Like also the people that I'm sure are not bringing a family of 10 people and so on, they have huge cars like Escalade or something like this, and it's just a normal everyday car there that is not necessary at all. For example, in this sense, people in Europe are much more wise. They use small cars that are easy to park, that don't consume a lot of gas, that don't make a lot of pollution for the atmosphere, and they also don't care much about showing off. I mean, the car is more like a way of I don't know, bringing you from point A to point B. It's not like something to show off about. And also here there are people that like nice cars, but it's not on this level as it is in United States. I really don't see the sense in such huge cars. I think it's also quite uncomfortable for your everyday life. And if we talk about, I don't know, climate change and so on, for example, in Europe, they are doing many things to reduce the pollution and try to save the situation. But if, for example, in US, people drive these huge cars that are completely unnecessary, I don't know why we need to make an effort here, because it's like wasted in the end. And as a part of this megalomania, I don't know how to call it, like the love for everything big, also the portions of the food and the drinks are huge in the United States, at least in New York, I noticed it. And I also don't see any sense in it. I think that less is always more. I mean that I prefer to have smaller portions that don't make me fat, and that also have more quality ingredients. I don't need huge amount of food, I just need a moderate amount of food, but of the best quality. In the United States, it seems like you get these huge portions, but the quality is really low. Like the ingredients, they are quite tasteless, and you see that it's not well cooked, and you see that it's not the best quality of the products. So I don't see any sense in it. I prefer to have a small coffee, but a good one, than a huge one like this. And I also prefer to have, I don't know, like a small plate of pasta, but the good one that is made al dente, that means that it's not cooked too much, and that has the best ingredients, and not like a huge mountain of macaroni and cheese or something like this. I don't want to offend anyone, but really I think the point of food is to enjoy it, to enjoy the experience, and not just to I don't know, to lower the hunger. It seems like I think the biggest difference is that in United States it seems like people eat just to not to be hungry. And in Italy, people eat to enjoy the experience itself, to enjoy the company, to enjoy the best ingredients and combinations of food and so on. But I prefer personally this approach. I don't think that you need huge portions, also because then you need to fight the obesity, and it's not really healthy. So I always prefer quality over quantity, and I think if you want the best in life, it's the right approach. Another thing that I don't understand, that in New York, like most of the people are wearing sportswear everywhere. I mean, when you see the people on the streets, you mostly you can't understand where they're going from the workouts to the workout. Maybe they're going for, I don't know, wedding, maybe they're going for the birthday or to work. They just wear sportswear everywhere, most of them. Not all of them. There are some people that dress quite elegantly or just have an interesting casual style, but there are many people that wear like really workout clothes, not just you know, athleisure style, but the clothes that I wear only in the gym, for example, they wear everywhere. And I'm, let's say, for me it's like the situation with two opinions. In one way, I think that everyone should do what he or she likes in his life. You should feel free to dress as you like, as you feel comfortable. But in the same time, our appearance, how we present ourselves when we go out and so on, when we are among other people, The way that we look, it's also a matter of respect that we have towards the society. Because if you're neat, if you're clean, if you're dressed well, I mean, you don't need to be dressed in expensive stuff and so on, but you can just be dressed with taste. For me, it's like a matter of respect that you show to the society. And in this case, for example, in Italy, it's considered a very bad taste to be dressed not appropriate for the situation. I mean, in Italy, they wear sportswear only in the gym, or if they are going jogging in the park. I mean, you can't see a person just going to take coffee or, I don't know, to do grocery shopping wearing sportswear. They can be dressed casually, of course, but not like in the sports leggings and top, the way that people dress for the gym. And for Italians, it's really important to present themselves well. It's called fare bella figura. It means like to present yourself in the right way for the society. And I appreciate this because when you go out in Milan and in general, even in some small cities in Italy, people are always dressed well. I mean, they can be dressed in a very, how to say, normal way, but the clothes are fitting well, they are good quality, they are very appropriate for the situation, and in the end you have this nice picture, and you feel the harmony around you. I mean, because aesthetic harmony in how the people dress up to go out in the world is also important for our eyes, and we feel better when we see harmony in everything, not only in the architecture, in how the city is made, but also in how people are dressed up. So when I came back to Milan after my vacation in New York, I was thinking, oh my god, everyone is so stylish here, everyone is so beautiful, and the people were just dressed normally. I mean, it wasn't fashion week or something, but people were just dressed appropriately for the situation that they were going around. I don't know, maybe going for the work. They were also dressed up in the right way for the office, and in general looked very elegant. I missed this part in United States, and I know that it's really a big difference between these two countries, and I think that we all should put some effort in how we look, because we feel, first of all, when you put some effort, you feel better about yourself, you become more happy, and you also present better, you present yourself better for the world. So I think that's something to think about. Another thing that I noticed in New York, that it's quite dirty. I mean, just the pavement and everything around is a bit dirty. And when you see the homeless people, maybe some rats and so on, like, I was really not feeling good wearing sandals there. In the end, I was always wearing sneakers because I just didn't feel good to go around with like uncovered feet in this dirty environment. It seems like in general the perception of hygiene and clean in New York is different from Milan, for example, because you can like go to the bar. One morning we went to take coffee to one nice bar. In general, it was quite a decent place, and I saw that there was like a monopattino. I don't know how it's called in English. I will write it on the screen. So there was this monopattino in the middle of the kitchen in the bar, like where they were preparing bagels. I took a bagel, and in the same place where they prepare your food, there was this dirty monopattino. That's like, if you have something like this in Milan or in Russia, for example, they will close your bar the first day for this sanitary problem because it's just not acceptable. And in United States, it's quite fine. I mean, everything is a bit like this there. And another thing about hygiene, I noticed that we had two hotels, like two 4-star hotels. So it was a good level of hotels, but even in these hotels, you don't have bidet in the room. In Italy, for example, you have bidet everywhere. In hotels, everyone has it at home because it's a part of hygiene. It's easier to keep yourself clean having it because you don't need to go to do the shower every time. And also in our hotels, I saw that you couldn't take the shower off. It was just fixed there on the wall and you just couldn't take it off, so it was also impossible, I mean, to clean yourself partially. You needed to go every time to the shower and it was not very comfortable. So from some of these details, I noticed that like the standard for hygiene and in general clean is quite different in these countries. Another thing that I noticed when I came back to Milan is that I saw much more warmth here. I mean, warmth between the people. I saw that people appreciate their families a lot. I saw like couples walking in the city with kids or maybe with parents, and you see that people take care of each other, and the general atmosphere is very warm in the human sense. New York seemed to me quite a lonely city. I know that this problem is common in such big cities as New York, and Milan is also, for example, considered like a city of single people, but you feel it much less here. You feel more appreciation for family and friends, and I mean the appreciation for community. I think that United States, maybe people have different mentality for this, or maybe it's just New York that is such a lonely city. At least I had this feeling, like I was there with my husband and everything was great, but I was really feeling lonely there. I mean, it was just a feeling that the city was given to me. I don't know if it's just my impression or if New York is really like this, but I'm just telling about my experience. After all this critique, I mean, I told that I don't want to criticize the culture, other culture, because everyone lives their way. I mean, it's not right to tell that some nationality lives in the right way, some in the wrong way, because everyone is different. But I know, because I watch TikTok, American TikTok, and also YouTube a lot, and I know that all these things that I noticed in my trip in New York are quite a problem for people. I saw that people really suffer of this. And I just wanted to show you that it can be different. I mean, you can live differently. Of course, the environment makes a big impact, but just comparing different cultures, you can always think what are the best traits that you can take from them, from these experiences. For example, in New York, if we talk about some positive things, I was going to different art galleries and the museums of modern art and so on, and I noticed one thing that I liked, that people are very free in their self-expression. They are not afraid to look funny or strange or clumsy, I don't know. They are just very free in their self-expression, and they just want to create. They want to create and put out their ideas in the world without being afraid to be judged. And that is what I liked about New York, for example, because I think this freedom of self-expression is really important to bring some innovations, because only if you think out of the box and you express yourself freely, you can arrive to innovations. If you always follow the old pattern, it's not possible because you always think about past. And for example, this feature I liked a lot about United States. So the summary of this video is about the fact that it's really important to travel. I think everyone should find a way to travel. There are ways, of course. You need to have money, but there are some destinations where you can go with less. Of course, United States, especially New York, is a very expensive place. But in general, to travel, you don't need always much. And I think it's fundamental to travel because it is an open-minded experience, and you start to notice some things in your life that you didn't notice before, and you start to appreciate more. For example, I was very annoyed by the fact that in many ways Italy is very old school. I mean, in the way of living, technology is not very developed here, and in general life is very old school and conservative in many ways. And it can be bad in some sense, but in the end, comparing with New York, for example, with the way of living in New York and with the amount of mental health problems there, for example, I understood that this old school way of living in many senses is more healthy. I mean, it puts less pressure for people, so people are less stressed, and in the end they're more healthy and happy. And also, when you are not distracted by million things, you appreciate more the fundamental things as your family, as your friends, and in general the human relationships and community that we all need. And I think that Italians really understand it, and that is something to appreciate here. When it comes also to the quality of life, for example, the convenience maybe saves you time, but sometimes you need to put efforts for your own well-being and your health. For example, I know that in United States most of people don't cook. They just don't do it they just don't do it in their everyday life because it saves time. But in the end, this way you eat not so well. You don't eat healthy. You don't eat nutritious food. You don't know what is in your food. And for example, in Italy, almost everyone is cooking. It's not so common to, I don't know, buy pre-cut fruit and vegetables. It's not so common to eat out all the time as people do in United States, and in the end it creates a more healthy nation. And it creates also these activities that can unite people. I mean, for example, when you cook the dinner with your friends or with your family, it's quite a nice activity that can bond you even more. I just wanted to share my observations about life with you after my trip to New York. I hope that it will give you some ideas about how you can improve the quality of your life, what we should appreciate more, and what we should change maybe in our lives to feel more happy and healthy. As I came back to work, now my goal is to be very focused on my YouTube channel, this one, my English YouTube channel. So you will see new videos on this channel every Monday, Wednesday and Saturday. I will try to make 3 videos a week. So see you very soon. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe or put like if you like this video. Ciao!